You could be forgiven for thinking that Jennifer Keesmaat was the first chief planner for the City of Toronto. She's not, of course, but she made it an office to be reckoned with, and publicly in ways not seen in these parts for some time, if ever. She took up the post 5 years ago this month, and to many people's surprise, just announced she was moving on. As she prepares to leave at month's end, we're pleased to welcome her back to TVO to reflect on her successes, disappointments, and future plans. Hello, Jennifer. Welcome back.
It's good to be here.
Okay, first question's obvious. How come you're leaving?
Well, you know, city planning happens in cycles, and 5 years, we implemented a 5-year strategic plan. I'm at the moment where either I needed to think through what the next 5-year strategic plan would look like, or this was a moment, a whole series of big projects we were working on were coming to completion. This seemed like it was a moment where I could tie a bow on a whole variety of things that we were doing and move on, and with great confidence that they will continue.
You know, of course, people look for ulterior explanations for why you're leaving, and I'm going to put some of those ulterior explanations to you right now and find out how true some of them are. For example, I mean, obviously in your job, you have to deal with hyper-political situations. How much was your distaste for the politics of the job a factor in your leaving?
Well, you know, any chief planner that doesn't like a political environment isn't going to last very long. That is a part of the job. It's a key requirement of the job. City building is all about negotiating. It's all about negotiating our values. And particularly in a city like Toronto, where you've got 44 politicians and they're from all across the political spectrum.
And then the mayor on top of that.
And then the mayor on top of that. And when there isn't necessarily a clearly articulated shared vision, there is a lot of negotiation that must happen by necessity. That is a part of our democracy. That doesn't scare me. That didn't scare me in the job. Was it pretty rough and tumble at times? Oh, hell yeah, of course it was. You know, this isn't child's play.
No, you were fighting with the mayor on the front pages of the papers for quite a while ago.
Well, and you know, this is a big deal, the things that we were talking about. This is really about what our shared future is going to look like. Where are we going to spend billions of dollars? These are important conversations to have, and if you're not willing to show up in the room and pound the table now and then this isn't the right place. So that part of it, that was an important part of the job. I knew that going into it. Was it something that I relished? Not necessarily.
Did you pound the table?
Oh, I pounded the table all day long.
Really? No, were there moments where you and John Tory were at each other in his office or in your office and pounding table happened?
Well, you know what's interesting? I would say more of the pounding of the table actually happened internally with, you know, a lot of that. Before anything even gets public as a recommendation for the public to consider, for politicians to consider, there's an internal negotiation. And it's no big secret that historically engineers and planners haven't gotten along very well, that they are often at odds. One wants to widen the street and one wants to narrow the street. Those two things are opposites. So there was a lot of negotiation that happened internally as well over this vision. And my goal always was to bring it back to our council-approved official plan policies and that shared vision that we have in the city. And I think we made great progress. So yeah, there was pounding of the tables, but it happened in a lot of different areas and in a lot of different venues. And I actually think that's a good thing. If we're not passionate about our democracy, if we're not passionate about the city that we're trying to build together, and if we're not having those conversations, the odds are we're probably not getting the best outcome.
Lots of rumors that you're going to run for something somewhere. So let's go through the list here. Are you going to run for mayor next year?
No, I'm absolutely not.
Are you going to run in the next Ontario election in June?
No, I'm absolutely not.
Are you going to run for anything in the next couple of years?
No, I'm not.
So it's not elective politics?
No, it's not. It's not.
So what are you looking at?
Well, I want to continue city building. This is my passion. It's where my expertise lies. I've learned a tremendous amount that I want to continue to contribute to this city, to other cities, both across Canada and across the world. So I'm figuring out what that next step is at this point in time. But in the foreseeable future, politics is not on the table.
And you have nothing immediately lined up, is that right?
Well, you'll have to stay posted.
Stay tuned. I get it. Okay. All right. One of the things I do want to go back, because obviously Toronto, the chief planner of Toronto was not your first job. I mean, you worked in Moncton and Lethbridge, Vancouver, a number of other Ontario cities, and presumably accumulated ideas, knowledge, ways of doing things in those other places. Can you give me an example of what you might have learned in another city that you could bring to bear here in Toronto?
Absolutely. One of the biggest things, and this is a great thing about going into different cities and getting absorbed in a culture and negotiating outcomes in those environments, there are really two big things that I took away from my practice that I was able to bring into this experience. The first was that planning and city building is about public trust. And if you don't have public trust, the ideas that you're bringing forward can be reversed.
So how do you get that?
They can be changed. Building public trust, and it's why I approached the job as chief planner in the way that I did. You build public trust, not by going out and doing things on your own, but by working collaboratively with communities, with, we brought all kinds of stakeholders into the planning process that had never been in the planning process before, whether it was UFT and the Ryerson City Building Institute, not-for-profit organizations like the Metcalf Foundation, working with the United Way, but also working with residents associations and community groups around that shared vision. If you leave people in the dust, any kind of change that you make in a democracy is going to be vulnerable to becoming undone. And that exists everywhere.
I think you also tried to kind of build currency one tweet at a time. I mean, I can't think of I've known them all. I can't think of another former chief planner who was as public as you were. Was that part of the strategy?
It was absolutely part of the strategy, but it was also, when I took this job, and when I went through the interview process, I talked about how city building is a shared enterprise. And if it is happening behind closed doors, and people cannot access the language because they don't know what a zoning bylaw is, they don't know what an official plan is, or they cannot access the decision-making process, that is a risk to the future of the city. And that the best way to, in fact, build out a shared vision over the long term is to ensure that it's being negotiated in public, and that's why sometimes it's messy, but also to ensure that we're building a shared language around the city that we want.
The flip side of that is, of course, that some politicians thought you got over your skis a little bit too much, right? That your profile was a little too high,
For
that you
sure.
were taking public positions on, controversial political issues that may have gone, against what the decision of council already had been. Why didn't you worry about that?
For a simple reason, which is that someone cottoned on to this in the media about 2 years in, was that I always went back to policy. You are always going to be able to find councillors who disagree with something that's being implemented. But my job as a public servant was to implement the will of council. So if I can go back to city policy and I have the authority of policy, we have in our official plan complete streets policies. We have in our official plan policies around transforming the city in such a way that people have the option to move less. So going back to policy is really the bedrock that civil servants must rest their work upon.
I hear you and I get you, but you and the mayor famously disagreed about what to do with the Gardner Expressway. You famously disagreed about what to do on the Scarborough subway. And after council and the mayor had made those decisions, you didn't exactly sort of go back to your office at City Hall and hide. You were still, at times, public in your opposition to those two decisions. How do you justify that?
You're going to have to go back to a timeline, and you're welcome to do that because my Twitter feed is there for the whole world to see. But you'll notice that I haven't said anything about the Gardner Expressway in 3 years.
So decision
There's a
having
council
been made?
decision. So prior to the decision being made, we went through a process. We worked with the public over many years. We generated a plan. We brought a recommendation to City Council. In that period of time, I was very much an advocate for a specific vision of the city. City Council made their decision.
And end of story at that point.
And now my job is to implement it. And my team is, in fact, implementing that new recommendation.
And you still disagree with the one-stop Scarborough subway?
Well, that's actually a complicated question. If we go back to the time when we had an LRT on the table versus what we have now, when I was given clear direction from City Council to implement a subway, that was my job to implement that subway when I was given that clear direction. And that's when I created the Express subway plan and the network plan, taking into account, of course, Smart Track as well as the LRT on Eglinton. So we went back and said, okay, we have to turn this into good city building. How are we going to do that? And I stand by that plan, given the various points in time and the very parameters I was given. And I must work within those parameters. These are our elected officials. They have been given the authority to make the decisions, not me. I must work within those parameters, and I did.
Here's you writing on your blog. It's hard to understand Toronto if you haven't spent at least a little bit of time falling in love with it. The gritty, eclectic places, buildings and spaces, or raw urbanism here, as some like to call our particular brand of city building, isn't the pretty obvious stuff of Vancouver or even Chicago. It's what makes Toronto real and interesting to the people who live here. You know, it sounds like a bit of a backhanded compliment to the capital city in a way here. You know, we haven't got the you know, the pretty obvious stuff here. We've got the rest of that stuff. What are you referring to there exactly?
Well, you know, I think anyone who lives in this city knows this, that this is a great city to live in. It's a great city to raise a family. This isn't a city that is polished clean. And I think that's actually part of what makes it such an interesting place. One of the most interesting places in the city is Kensington Market. Is it pretty? No. Is it an architectural feat? No. It's
pretty lively, though.
It's a lively, dynamic, interesting place because of the commerce, because of the people that inhabit it. If you look at the brickworks, the brickworks it's a gritty, dusty, old. It's a fascinating narrative of the industrial city and the making of the city through the brickworks. And it is one of the great places in the city. Same with Witchwood Barns. If you look at our neighborhoods, a lot of our neighborhoods are great places to live. But are they places that are kind of scrubbed clean like you would see in some other places in the world? No, but the people have made the city their own, and that's what makes the city such a wonderful place. And I'll always stand by that.
Jane Jacobs, of course, wrote that famous book, The Death and Life of Great American Cities?
Great American Cities, yes.
And anybody who's in the planning business always wants to know, I wonder how much influence Jane Jacobs had on her. So what's the answer to that?
Well, Jane Jacobs is, my everything.
She's the godmother, right?
Well, she is. Jane Jacobs, I read Jane Jacobs before I even became a planner. And in fact, I was having a conversation with someone at a party years ago, didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. And I was chatting and he said, "Are you a planner?" And I said, "No." He said, "You talk like a planner." I said, "What's a planner?" He said, "Read Jane Jacobs." And I went home, I read Life and Death, and I was home. And it was like, this is where I belong. This is what I'm passionate about.
Did you ever meet her?
And I absolutely did. I met her on a few occasions. She wouldn't have remembered me. I wasn't anybody. But I did meet her, and I treasure her legacy. And I think, if I can make a little plug, her most recent book, her last book, Dark Age Ahead, is a prophetic book about what we see happening in the world today. She talks about families designed to fail. She talks about communities that are no longer willing to pay taxes. It's a prophetic book that predicts a lot of the dynamic we see in the geopolitical world today, and it's a very important read.
Dark Age Ahead?
Dark Age Ahead. It's a must read.
Okay, good, thanks. Okay, Adam Vaughn, former Toronto City Councillor, now a Member of Parliament. You're going to think I'm picking on you with all these quotes.
I do, sort of.
I know you do.
Where's the celebration?
I'm not picking on you. But we're going to cover the whole record here. Here's what he said a couple of years ago. He said, "She's fighting so hard to be heard that sometimes she forgets that she also needs to listen." Is he right about that?
Well, I think it's kind of a strange comment, in part because an enormous part of what I brought to the city planning process was transparency, and transparency is about access, and it is about a dialogue about the city. And city planners have something to say, and city planners want to hear as well. Planners in Public Space, one of the very famous and very successful initiatives that I launched right when I began, was all about getting planners into the public sphere to talk to communities. I think that's a really good question to ask residents associations.
Because they would say what?
Because I think they would tell you that what the engagement was like over the past 5 years. But I think it's also a really good question to ask a whole variety of different players. And I think, let me just go back a minute. It's kind of like saying, is someone kind? Well, you can always be kinder. You can always be more generous. I don't want to suggest that I listened too much, I believe, or not enough. I believe that in my work, I prioritized bringing voices into the process that have historically and traditionally been excluded from the process. And we should talk for a minute about the fact that I'm the first woman in this job, because I don't think it's a coincidence that I approached the job in that way, and the fact that I am a woman. And I said, wait a minute, there's voices that aren't at the table that need to be at the table. And the planning review panel, which I created as a pilot and is now being advanced in a permanent way, was all about ensuring every geography of the city and every demographic of the city has a voice and a way into the planning process. And in part because historically, We conducted a poll several years ago and discovered that the vast majority of participants in our process, over 55, white homeowners. Does that sound like Toronto to you?
Sounds like a very narrow slice of Toronto.
It's a very narrow slice of Toronto. So responding to that and ensuring that more voices could come into the process is the Planning Review Panel, and it's a really important initiative because it represents the tenures of the city, 50% voters, 50% homeowners. It represents the cultural diversity of the city. It represents every geography in the city. And it represents every age group in the city. So ensuring that we've got young people, our youth engagement strategies, all about bringing young people into the process and ensuring that young people are shaping the future city. Because when you get a bunch of 20-year-olds in the room and you get a bunch of 70-year-old homeowners, they have something very different to say about building LRT. Very different.
I bet they do. Let's do a little clip here. A few years ago, you made a short film, and it was called Pedestrian Jar, which was featured at TIFF.
That's right.
And we're going to show a little clip and then come back and chat. Sheldon, if you would please, roll the clip.
The Pedestrian Jar was our idea to help make the City of Toronto a bit safer for everyone, drivers and pedestrians alike. The idea originated here in our little office. Now it's started to spread. Every time you hit a pedestrian on the way to work, you have to put a quarter in the jar.
Now, when I'm trying to make a right turn, this strange feeling comes over me, and I think, just maybe there's a pedestrian on the corner waiting to cross, and I just let them cross right in front of me.
A bit of dark Keesmaatian humor there,
So dark.
but a bigger point trying to be made here, right?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
Are we there yet? Sharing the road in the way we need to?
We're nowhere there yet.
Nowhere.
And anyone who has been watching the throngs of children walking to school this week likely has, and who has a child, likely has had the same feeling that I have as I watched my child walking with his friends down the street and then saw some goofball going 60 kilometers on a residential street, knowing that that is a death machine. And there's all these vulnerable children on the street, knows that we are nowhere near where we need to be. And the irony is, we produced that back in 2011, I believe it was. And we produced it in part because in my office, we were thinking about how do we kind of shake people out of their complacency about the fact that we've made the city a dangerous place for its most vulnerable users, children, the elderly. Shouldn't we be prioritizing children and the elderly? Shouldn't children and the elderly be our #1 priority? Or is getting to work fast our #1 priority?
Well,
really?
I know what the majority of people would say. I hate to tell you. Well, you know what they'd say too.
Well, I do, but I have to push back against that because my father-in-law, who's driven an SUV his whole life, when the bike lanes went in on Simcoe and he was working downtown and he knows that his daughter-in-law bikes to work, he came home one day and he said, I really like it that I don't have to worry about the cyclists anymore because I know my daughter-in-law uses those bike lanes. So this is a guy who never in his life is going to get on a bike, ever. He drives a great big SUV. But he was able to make the translation to people that he loves. Everyone has, parents. Many people have children or nieces or nephews. And if we can extrapolate concern for others into how we think about designing and sharing the city, then the city is going to become a more humane place. And we're not there yet.
Let me ask you about another big city, and that is Houston, which, of course, has been underwater for a long time now. And I guess one of the reasons that Houston got so big so fast is that they don't really have any zoning bylaws there at all, do they?
Don't.
You can sort of build whatever you want, wherever you want, and, it's the Wild West in some respects, but are there lessons for us based on what experiences they have been through?
There's a few lessons. The first one I would say is that even if you do plan a resilient city, and no one is there yet, maybe the Dutch, because they've been dealing with water for a very long time, but even if you do build a resilient city, the kind of extreme weather events we're talking about right now are even beyond what you can plan to accommodate in a city. Like we're kind of way off the charts right now. But there's a middle point. And we learned our lesson very well in the Toronto region as a result of Hurricane Hazel. And you can look at maps of where housing was located in the region prior to Hurricane Hazel.
This is 1950s, I guess,
1950s, mid-50s. And you can look after, and one of the things that we've done, we've increased our floodplains, we've expropriated housing from those floodplains. There are lessons that we can learn. I read a couple of days ago in, I believe it was Bloomberg, that in Houston, in the past 4 years, they have built 8,100 houses in floodplains. Build houses in the floodplains, the house floods. Come on, people. Come on, people, right? So there's things that we can do through strong public policy to ensure that we're representing the broader public interest in our city building. There's a tremendous amount that we can do around green infrastructure. And the problem is when you do this well, you sort of don't see the success story. We have some areas of the city where green infrastructure has been built roadside. It just really looks like a garden. It looks like an extension of the public space. But in fact, beneath the surface, there is 3 feet of green infrastructure that is a stormwater management feature because it's in a low point in the city. The areas in the city where this has been installed on the Danforth and the Queensway are areas that used to be prone to flooding that are no longer flooding. And we need to talk about these stories so that we don't take for granted those kinds of infrastructure investments. And Copenhagen's doing a really good job of this, accommodating water and making it visible so that the community understands why these investments are a priority.
Okay. In our last minute here, I want to ask you one last thing, and that is, are you sure this is a better city 5 years later?
Oh, I'm absolutely sure.
What's better about it?
Well, there's so much that's better. You know, 5 years ago, we were talking, almost every time we had a conversation, we were talking about how there was 2 cities, how the city was divided. And I think we've actually come around in the past 5 years to a recognition that we have a shared interest. The Transit Network Plan is a perfect example of this. The Transit Network Plan, which was supported by all of City Council unanimously, is a very, very important big move, in part because it's a recognition that transit doesn't only matter if it's in my neighborhood or in my ward, but we have to think of the city as a whole and ensure that we're planning the infrastructure that makes the entire city work. And you can extrapolate that on a regional scale as well. But that shared interest, and the Transit Network Plan is an example of that. The community planning that we see taking place in Scarborough, Keele Finch Plus, Consumers Road, Agincourt Mall. There's all kinds of the Golden Mile in Scarborough. There's all kinds of proactive planning that we're doing that is broadly supported, in part because there's a recognition that we do have this shared interest of getting the whole city right, not just some parts of it.
Okay. Jennifer, I want to say 2 more things here, which is a couple of plugs. If viewers want to see more of her, they can tune in to a program called The Life-Size City. And that's a series that begins this Sunday, September 10th on TVO at 9 p.m. And your episode is actually the following week, September 17th, TVO 9 p.m. And you've got your own podcast as well, invisiblecity.com. So more on Jennifer, more on planning, more on city building, invisiblecity.com. Great to have you on the program again.
Thank you. It's
been fun. You going to come
fun.
back and visit us even when you're no longer the chief planner?
If you'll have me, yes.
I shall have you. We shall have you. Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you.
Help TVO create a better world through the power of learning. Visit TVO.org and make a tax-deductible donation today.